The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, folks. Thank you for chiming in to the Understanding the Great Start Wage Supplement Program webinar. I'd like to introduce our presenters today. I will be our presenter. My name is Mark Obachowski. I am our statewide professional development advisor. I've been here at INCRA for about 15 years now and wore several different hats in that time that I've spent here. Our other presenter will be Annie Connell. Annie has been at INCRA for a little over 10 years now. Her primary job responsibility has been our Great Start lead counselor for the, credentialing lead counselor. And she now also is one of our statewide professional development advisors. So before we get started, I'd like to go over our objectives for today. The first question is, what is Great Start? We're also going to review the application process and requirements. We're going to share some Great Start resources, and we're going to answer a number of frequently asked questions about the Great Start program. Before we get into the heart of the presentation, I want to remind you that there will be some polls. Polls are just simple questions that you can respond to directly on your computer. They're basically just one or two click answers. There are a couple where we ask you to actually type in some information, basically information about the presentation in general or things you've learned about that. So we do encourage people to participate in our polls. Gives us some idea of how people are following the presentation as we go along. So what is Great Start? Annie, you want to go ahead and talk about what is Great Start?
Sure. Great Start stands for the Great Strategy to Attract and Retain Teachers, and it is a wage supplement program. So the intent of Great Start is to reward practitioners like you by supplementing your income based on your education that's gone above and beyond the requirements of the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, or IDCFS. You also would have to remain at your current place of employment. So supplements are paid directly to eligible practitioners on a 6-month schedule based on continued employment at the same program and continuing to meet all of the program eligibility requirements. Great Start helps programs retain employees, which we know increases quality and consistent care to children without raising parent fees. So let's take a minute. We're going to see our first poll come up on the screen here, and it's a basic question about Great Start. So the Great Start program is a wage supplement paid every 6 months to applicants who remain eligible. Is that true or false? And we'll give you just a minute to answer. Okay, so it looks like almost everybody has answered true, and that is the correct answer. So the Great Start program is a wage supplement paid every 6 months to applicants who, again, remain eligible for that program. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how Great Start started with the program legislation that created it. So Great Start was introduced into legislation in June of 2000. And it was permanently signed into law in 2004. So the Great Start program is administered by the Illinois Network of Child Care Resource and Referral Agencies, or INCRA, and it's funded by the Illinois Department of Human Services, IDHS, the Bureau of Child Care and Development. Great Start has a defined set of requirements which are noted in the legislation. So the requirements that make you eligible for the program, as well as the actual wage scale itself, which we'll share with you in a little bit, those are actually part of the program legislation. Eligible applicants must meet each requirement. So you have to make sure that you're meeting every eligibility requirement in order for us to give you that supplement. And we're going to review the eligibility criteria in the following slides. You'll hear us tell you several times throughout this presentation, our website, which is www.ilgateways.com, is a great resource. And so if you're ever needing to get some more information about the eligibility requirements, you can always go to the website for a little bit more detail about those requirements.
Just to add, the Gateways website does not require a username or password. It is not the same as the Registry website. Just thought I'd add that little piece. Okay, let's move on.
So how do you participate in the Great Start program? That's a really great question, and we're going to hopefully cover all of our bases there so that you know after you leave this presentation the steps to apply. So let's first talk about the requirements. And so here's some of our basic eligibility requirements. You must be employed by an eligible program. So that means that your employer must be an Illinois Department of Children and Family Services licensed program. Now that could be family child care, that could be a center-based setting, it could be a group home. Your program would also have to be operating 8 consecutive hours a day, which is what we consider a full day program. Or you'd also have to be caring for the same group of children at least 47 weeks per year, and that's what we consider a full year program. So full day, full year program. You must be employed by the current center that you're at or family child care home, group home for at least 1 continuous year. You must be a citizen of the United States or a legal resident. You must care for Illinois children, and you must be working at least 15 hours or more per week on a continuous employment basis.
So I'd like to add that half-day programs do not qualify. In some cases, people think, I have a group of children that come in the morning, that group goes away, and another group of children come in for the afternoon session. That is considered a half-day program. Half-day programs are not eligible for Great Start.
Okay, so a few more of the requirements. You must work in an eligible position. So when we are talking about an eligible position for Great Start, on top of that full day, full year license program, the eligible positions within those programs would include a family child care provider, family child care assistant, group home provider, or group home assistant. Obviously, those would be specific to family child care or group home sites. And then if you're in the center, then you would have to work either as a director, an assistant director, a teacher, assistant teacher, school-age teacher, or school-age assistant. So those are all of the eligible positions. Again, I know that's a lot of information. All of this is available on our website, which we will refer you to at the end. You'll see the address there so you can jot it down. You must earn $18 per hour or less and $37,440 per year or less. So that's not an or, that's an and. So it's $18 per hour or less and $37,440 per year or less. This is a recent change to the Great Start program as of July 1st. Our previous wage maximum was $15 per hour, and so we were able to get that increase. So this just began on July 1st, so this is a fairly recent change for us. And then you must also meet wage supplement scale educational requirements, which Mark is going to go over here in just a second. So those are the basic eligibility requirements. Once you feel like you meet these, you go ahead and submit your application. What will happen is once your application is received, a Great Start specialist may request additional documentation. They may call for some clarification about the items that you submitted, but you can always visit the Gateway's website for more details on each of these requirements. A Great Start specialist will be assigned to each person who has applied for the Great Start program, and that specialist is really available to assist you throughout the process. So that's going to be your go-to person, so to speak, if you have questions about the status of your application, if you need to reach out to supply additional documentation, things like that, you'll always have that specialist to reach out to. And it is important to note, which we will stress throughout this presentation as well, that everything that we send you from Great Start is going to come to you via email. So we cannot stress enough that it's important to make sure you log into that registry account. You make sure that the email address you have on file is a current email that you check often, and also make sure you're checking your junk and your spam filters, because a lot of times emails from us for some reason like to get caught in those, so you might miss something that's important if you're not making sure you're checking those emails and those filters.
Okay, average wage supplement amounts. The Great Start wage supplement chart is probably one of the more least understood parts of the Great Start program. So I'm just going to go over a couple of items. The wage scale has 30 different wage scale options. We'll have a look at that when we go live on the Gateway's website in just a little bit, but I just wanted to give a couple of pieces of information about how the wage scale works. So your eligibility in addition to the basic eligibility requirements, which Annie just reviewed, how much wage supplement you will be eligible for is based on three main criteria. Number one, it's based on your job title, the position that you hold. As Annie indicated earlier, that you must be a teacher, assistant teacher, director, or assistant director in a child care center, a family child care provider, family group home provider, or an assistant in one of those two type programs. So that's one part of the wage scale option requirement. The second is your educational level. So what is your level of education? And that the education that's required will vary depending on your position. The third is the number of hours that you work. If you work 30 hours or more, as you can see on the screen, the dollar amounts $150, $375, $525, etc. If you are eligible at any of those levels and you work 30 hours or more, you will receive that entire wage supplement. Now, the most important part of the eligibility requirement based on the wage scale is your educational level. So let's review a couple of the things that we have on screen. For example, if your position is a family child care provider or an assistant teacher with at least 6 semester hours in early childhood education or child development, and you work 30 hours or more per week, your wage supplement will be $150 every 6 months. If you work less than 30 but at least 15, you will receive a portion of that $150 every 6 months. So let's say you're a teacher, that is your job title, and you have a CDA, Child Development Associate credential, or a CCP, Child Care Professional, and you have at least 12 semester hours of college credit towards a degree, and you work 30 hours or more a week, you will receive a wage supplement of about $375. So now, associate's degree in early childhood development or child development, if you meet that requirement, you're an assistant, a family child care provider, a family group home provider, or a teacher, your wage supplement will be $825. So it's very important to understand the wage scale. Lots of people say their job title is a teacher. Well, I've got 12 hours of early childhood education. How come I don't qualify? You have to look at the full wage scale and see where your work position fits with the educational level. So we have a couple of polls that are part of this particular screen. There's 3 in general. So we're going to go ahead and look at the very first poll. And that poll says, if you work at a license exempt program, could you be eligible for Great Start? Your choices will be either yes or no. We'll give people a couple of minutes to answer that question. It looks like we're almost done. It looks like that we're still getting some responses. I'll give it a couple more seconds. Well, the answer to that particular poll question would be no. If you work in a license exempt program, you are not eligible for Great Start. Great Start is only applicable to programs that are fully DCFS licensed. So the second poll, if you live in Illinois, but you work at a child care site in Wisconsin, could you be eligible for Great Start? Again, if you live in Illinois, but work in Wisconsin in a child care center, could you be eligible for Great Start? The answer there again will be either yes or no. Okay, it looks like people are pretty much finished with that. And the answer would be no. You cannot receive Great Start, even if you live in Illinois, but you work in Wisconsin. Now, the opposite is true. If you live in Wisconsin, but you work in a Illinois child care center, if you meet the eligibility requirements, it is possible that you could be eligible for Great Start. But the reverse, if you live in Illinois but work in Wisconsin, you would not be eligible. The last poll for this particular slide, if you make $18.50 an hour, could you be eligible for Great Start? Again, if you make $18.50 an hour, could you be eligible for Great Start? The answer is yes or no. Okay, it looks like we're just about finished. I threw a little bit of a curveball on that one. If you make more than $18 an hour, you are no longer eligible. If you make $15.50 an hour, as the original poll was created, the answer would be yes, you could possibly be eligible because, again, starting in July 1st, 2019, we did increase the wage amount that you can make to $18 an hour or $37,440. So let's move to the next slide. Frequently asked questions. We put together a group of frequently asked questions. By the way, the same particular list of frequently asked questions is available on the ilgateways.com website. If you go to the Great Start page, you can find these very same questions, and you can look at the questions and answers as well. So we'll go ahead and get started, and we're going to go to the very first question. What level should I apply for if I apply for Great Start? Well, when you apply for Great Start, you're not going to apply for any specific level. You're going to apply for the program in general. What will happen is once we have your completed application that includes all the required documents and any additional information that's needed to process your application, we will determine what level, if any, you are eligible for on the Great Start wage scale. The second question, I have a bachelor's degree. Will I be eligible? Again, the answer to that question is it depends. Now, you do not have to have a degree in early childhood education or child development. However, virtually all levels of the Great Start wage scale do require that you have some college coursework in early childhood education or child development. ECE-related courses can also be counted in that particular area as well. So, I make less than $18 an hour. Will I be eligible? Again, the answer is yes, it's possible, depending on your job title, the number of hours that you work, and whether or not you meet all the basic eligibility requirements. So, we have some additional frequently asked questions. Annie's going to go ahead and have a look at these, so we'll put them on screen.
Okay, so when should I apply? New Great Start applications are accepted year-round. So you can submit an application for the Great Start program at any time, even if you've never applied before. But you must be working at your current site for at least 1 year before you apply. And so you saw me go through that as one of the eligibility requirements. So that's really why we ask that you wait until you've been at that site for 1 full year before you apply, just because that is one of the main eligibility requirements. If you're not meeting that, then we would not be able to make you eligible for the supplement, even if you do meet the rest of the eligibility requirements. Renewal applications are due every 6 months. For example, if you were found eligible for Great Start in April, then you would need to renew in October. We do send out a courtesy reminder via email the month before you're due to renew. That would remind you that you have a renewal date that's approaching for Great Start and invite you to go ahead and submit your application. Again, we're stressing that it's important to make sure that your email address on file is one that you check often, that it's an active email address, it's typed correctly, there's no typos in it, and that you read that renewal email that you get completely. There may be some changes or additional information that might pop up from time to time, so it's important just to make sure that you read through those emails fully. What happens if there is a problem with the documents I submitted? So along with your application, there is a checklist within the Great Start application that will tell you what documents or paperwork you need to submit with your application. Occasionally, there may be some issues with something missing or something we need some more clarification about, and one of the specialists will reach out to you about that. So as you're applying, just make sure that you use the application checklist that's available to make sure that you're sending in all of the documentation that we need. Double check that everything on the application is correct. It is important to note that there's a section of the application that would need to be filled out and signed by your director if you are not a family child care provider. If you are a family child care provider, you would complete that section for yourself. And then if there's a question about the documents that you've sent or if additional information is needed, one of our Great Start specialists will reach out, typically again via email, and let you know what it is that you need or what else you need to submit. There would also be a deadline in that email. So there would be a date that you would have to submit that information by in order for your application to be processed. If that documentation is not received by that due date, then your application will likely be made ineligible and you'd have to reapply or reach out to your specialist to talk about a reconsideration. So that's an option as well. You can also check your registry account to make sure that your email is entered correctly, to make sure that, you know, whatever email address or whatever mailing address you have on file is the one where you prefer your check go if you're made eligible. And then you can also check the status of your application through the registry. So we're having a little glitch with that right now, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Some of you may have encountered it, but typically the registry is a good place to check and see the status of your application as it moves through the process. And then I did also want to note here that we cannot accept faxed applications.
So as far as additional information, I give you one real quick example of a situation where additional information may be required. Let's say your job title is teacher assistant director. Well, we may require some more information to determine which of those positions you occupy more of your time. Are you do you spend more time as director, assistant director, or do you spend more time in the classroom with children? So we may require some additional information to verify that type of information. And once again, we cannot stress enough how important it is that we have your most recent active and correct email address, because that's how we're going to communicate with you.
So notifications from Gateways to Opportunity. Again, you'll receive an email if there's any additional information or documentation that you need to submit in order for us to fully process your application. I do want to note again that reading these emails completely is really in your best interest, just in case if there's some information in there that might be new to you. The emails will give details for what additional information is needed and that due date, which we already talked about. And you'll also get notification via email once an eligibility decision has been reached. So if your application is eligible or your application is ineligible, that information will come to you via email as well. So that's another reason why it's really important to keep an eye on those emails. That way you know when to expect that check to be coming in the mail. New applications for Great Start are typically processed within 15 working days, and renewal applications are processed within 20 working days. And all of the applications we receive are processed in the order received. So again, you can follow your application progress via the registry. Okay, so a few more frequently asked questions. Where should I look to see if I have a notice for Great Start? So you can contact your Great Start specialist. You can log into your registry dashboard to see the status of your application, or you can go through your email and see if you received an email about your status. The next slide will go through some information about how to check your application status via the registry. So Mark will do that here in just a second. And then the other frequently asked question we have here is, if I am eligible, when will I receive a supplement? So when will my check be sent to me? So upon receipt of funding from IDHS, checks will be mailed. So those checks are always mailed based on the availability of funding. To check the status of the Great Start Wage Supplement checks, you can always go to our Gateways Facebook page. That information will always be posted there pretty much immediately when those checks go out, or you can call our office at 866-697-8278 and speak with someone. Just select the option for Great Start. We can give you that information. I will tell you, if you're made eligible, let's say you're made eligible this month, which would be September, then your check will typically come based on availability of funding in October. So those checks are always typically the month following your eligibility decision.
Just a little note on why we put notifications about check mailing on Facebook is because we can add that information pretty much instantaneously. It's a much more laborious process to put information on our website. So if you do not have access to Facebook, you can always talk to a coworker. I'm sure somebody in your center probably is on Facebook, and they can check the status of checks for you in that method. So. Okay, so the next part is what is the application, what is my application status? What we have on screen here is some information about where you can go to check the status of your application. Now, under normal circumstances, this would be a pretty routine thing, but as Annie pointed out just a few moments ago, we are having some technical issues with this particular aspect. So if you follow this process, it's likely you're not going to be able to see the status of your application. And we just implore your patience as we try to work through getting this little piece of technical difficulty worked out. But now, if you do go to the ilgateways.com website, I'm going to use the cursor. So you're going to go to ilgateways.com. You're going to click on Registry Membership Login. You're going to log into your dashboard with your username and password. Then you're going to click the portal that says My Registry, and then click Apply. So again, basically you have to log into your registry dashboard. This is going to take you away from the IL Gateways website and will take you to the registry website, which is a completely different website. So select the gateway program that you applied for, and then you can review the status of your application from that particular point. From the calls that Annie and I have received as we're helping with our Great Start counselors work through the many applications that we've gotten, a number of people seem to be fairly familiar with this, but once again, we implore your patience as we try to go ahead and repair that particular glitch that we're having. So, where can I find more information and resources about the Great Start program? Well, in this particular part from this slide, you're going to be able to type into your comment box some things that you've learned that tell you where you can go to find information about the Great Start program, whether it be general eligibility information, status of your application, or other types of information. So go ahead, take a few minutes and type into the comment box some of the things that you've learned about Great Start resources. We're going to give you a little bit of extra time on this since it's not just a quick yes, no click. It's an actual, you do actually have to type. So.
So if you guys, I'm not sure, we don't see any responses coming in from that one. So if you just use your comment box, just type in there where you would go to find some information about Great Start. So would you go to, would you call us? Would you ask a coworker? Where would you go? Yep, there's some. Okay, the Great Start website. It's really small. There we go.
Okay, we go.
CCR&R, yep, that's a great resource.
Okay, that'd be a good one, exactly.
Call.
Website or call, Great Start website, right, INCRA website. INCRA website might be a good way to link to the Gateways website, but I don't think there's a great deal of information about the Great Start program on the INCRA website.
Facebook page, yep, the Facebook page will update you.
That will be where you're going to go for information about check mailing.
Facebook, yes, you are putting that in the right place. Facebook, yep, we saw that response.
Yep, very good.
Great Start website. So, yep, it looks like you guys have a pretty good, the DCFS website wouldn't give you information about Gateways resources, but that would be a good place to look for teacher qualifications and things like that. So it looks like you guys have a pretty good handle. A lot of you are utilizing CCR&R resources. You're calling us, you're looking at, asking coworkers, you're looking at the website. So you guys have a pretty good handle on where to find this information. So that's awesome. Click on this. There we go.
Okay, Great Start Program resources. We just actually reviewed quite a few different resources that are available. So as Annie just pointed out, it looks like from the comments that we got that people have a pretty good handle on where do I go to get information about this particular program. So let's move on to the next part. So Great Start Program resources. Apply online. Monitor your application through the registry. So applicants must send the required documentation along with their membership, registry membership form. Now, if you actually look at the checklist for the Great Start application, I recommend you go to the hard copy paper application because it does include the complete checklist there. If you are applying online, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this later on in the presentation, but if you do happen to apply online, there is a separate section that you must print out. That printout has the additional information, including the checklist. So, so that is one place you can go to get additional documentation or information about all the specific documents that are required for your application. So your application must be mailed if you are using a hard copy application, or it can be emailed. Again, as Annie pointed out earlier on in our presentation, faxed applications are not accepted. Now, that being said, if there are missing documents, say for example, we didn't happen to get a copy of your current W-2 form or some other type of information that's required from your director, that individual information that is requested for your application can be faxed, it can be mailed, or it can be emailed. So again, as I pointed out, if you apply online, it's a two-step process. When you complete your online application, you can save it, and then you must complete that step one. Then you're going to have to complete step two in the process. Step two requires that you download the application checklist and some accompanying documentation that you need to submit for your application. Once your initial application is received online or by mail, and any documentation that's requested from your credential counselor, that information, that additional information, again, can be faxed, emailed, or mailed directly to us. Okay, from this point, what we're going to do is we're going to go leave the PowerPoint and we're going to go directly to the Great Start website. So if you just give me a second here, I have to, oops, that didn't work. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay, what we are now at is at the Great Start, the Gateways website, ilgateways.com. So again, this is not the registry website. You'll be able to know by the sliding screen back and forth. You can see now it says big news. This is information about the big changes that came place. So where do I find information specifically about the Great Start program? So I'm on the home page and I'm going to scroll down, and here I see Gateway Scholarship Program. We're not talking about that today. Great Start Program. Now this little button says apply or renew. You can click on that particular button, and that's going to take you to the Great Start page of our Gateways website. Now, we highly encourage anybody who is applying for Great Start for the first time, before you actually print out and start completing your application, please take some time to go to this particular page and read some of the information about that. So, who is eligible? That's one of the first parts. So, if you need more information, you can click here, and we'll give you a lot more detailed information about basic eligibility requirements. So, how do I apply? If I want more information, let's go ahead and click on Get More Details on information on how do I apply. So, as I pointed out in the previous slide, there's two ways that you can apply for Great Start. You can apply online, There's part 1 that we talked about. That's the online application. There's only 2 pages. So if you only complete those 2 pages and think you're done applying for Great Start, 30 days later you're going to get an email saying you are ineligible for the Great Start program. You're going to go, why am I ineligible? Well, you didn't complete part 2. Part 2 says once you have submitted your online application, you will see the online application packet. You have to print that application packet, complete all the documents that are required for the with the checklist that's included, and then put all that information together, sign all the documents that are required, and mail it or email it to us. So the mailing address is listed here in step number 3, INCRA/applications, 1226 Towanda Plaza. Now, to apply by paper, this is my personal preference when I talk to people on phone or when I talk to them in person. I basically encourage everybody to go ahead and print out the full Great Start application. Now, for some people, this is problematic if you don't have access to a printer. But keep in mind, if you apply online, you still have to print out that application packet, which includes all the stuff that's in the paper application. So what I suggest, if you do use the paper application, or if you apply online and print out that subsequent application packet, anything that you have to fill out and sign, make copies of, keep the originals, and mail or email those copies to us instead of sending us the original. That way, if you do the paper application, you have a complete record of every single document that you submitted for your application process. So, required document information is listed here. So again, keeping in mind that all applicants have to send in certain information. Center applicants have to send in different information than family group home providers because you get paid in different ways. So let's go back 1 page. So I'm going to scroll down to the wage scale. As I pointed out, there are 30 different options on the Great Start wage scale. If you look at this particular document, which you can print out, by the way, if you want to have it for a reference, you need to point out some important features. Where it says job category, look at the letters: A, assistants, FCC, family child providers, G, group home, T, teachers, and directors. If you look at the eligibility column, the job position letter that is applicable to you will be listed here. If you are a teacher, that is your job title. This is the first place that you can access the Great Start wage scale. So if I'm a teacher and I have 6 semester hours of early childhood child development, you can't be eligible for Great Start. The letter T does not appear in that particular eligibility column. If you're a director, then you have to look where the letter D is. So if you are a director, the first place that you can be eligible is your associate's degree in early childhood education. Now, there are other particular educational requirements that could qualify you for Great Start as well. So once again, it's important that you look at, your job title, the educational requirements, and then again, the number of hours that you work will indicate where your wage supplement will be. 30 hours or more is basically considered full-time. So I'm going to go back 1 more page from that. Ooh, no, we're just going to close that out. So we're going to scroll down to the next part. Now, if you look at the bottom, if the frequently asked questions that we've been going over for the in this webinar are listed here. Your application status, there's a link to that particular option to find out what the status of your application is. Keep in mind that the application status is going to be pretty general. It's going to say pending. It may say awaiting additional documentation. So additional Great Start forms. If you need more forms, you can click here. A flow chart of the Great Start application process is listed here. I strongly recommend everybody at least have a look at this. And then there's a Great Start tip sheet as well. we'll just go there real quick to see what that particular document looks like. So it's basic tips on how to make the most of your Great Start application. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and where's my escape? Oh. There we go. Okay, so Annie's going to continue with our next screen. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so we can talk about some more resources. So Mark went over the website, mainly the Great Start portion of the website. So there's a lot more information in the website than just about the Great Start program. So now that he's shown you kind of how to navigate that, you can always go back and look through some of the other programs or resources that we have available, some of which will be these programs that I'm about to talk about. So we do have a basic transcript review, and that's really just a process where we go through, look at your official transcripts at a high level, and then categorize the college coursework you've taken, including your total number of credit hours completed, and then the number of credit hours in the 4 categories that we have. So the 4 categories in the basic transcript review are early childhood child development, so ECE/CD, ECE related, school age and youth development, and business administration. And so those will actually appear on your professional development record. You can see where the basic transcript review has been completed. It will show you the total number of coursework hours you've completed, and then you'll see those 4 categories. Some may have zeros under them, some may have other numbers, but that's basically showing you through that basic transcript review how those courses have been categorized. If your official accredited college transcripts have not already been submitted to our office through your participation in other programs, so maybe you've already submitted them for a BTR, you submitted them for the Gateway Scholarship Program for a credential, those are already on file. A basic transcript review has probably already been done. If you've never submitted official transcripts from an accredited college or university to our office, you can submit those at any time and have that basic transcript review done. The basic transcript review is a free service of your registry membership, so there's no cost for that, there's no application for it. You would just send your official transcripts and those would be reviewed. So I would urge you, if you haven't had that done, to consider requesting a transcript be sent to our office. You can either have it mailed to us in a sealed envelope directly from the school via mail, or there is an email address where you can send electronic official transcripts. So those would be sent through an electronic official transcript company, not that you got your official transcript, opened it, scanned it, and sent it to us. And that email address is transcripts, so it's just the word transcript with an S at the end, at inccrra.org. We also have the Gateway Scholarship Program, and that's an individual-based scholarship where we can pay anywhere from 60 to 100% of your tuition for going back to school, taking coursework in early childhood education or child development. Like Great Start, it is for providers who are working in early care and education, and it does include preschool for all programs as well. The Gateway Scholarship Program is administered by INCRA and funded by the Illinois Department of Human Services, IDHS, and the Illinois State Board of Education, or ISB. Applicants who complete additional college coursework can possibly move up on the wage supplement scale. So Mark just showed you the full scale from the website. We showed you a snippet of the scale in this presentation. So if you are at a particular level and you really would like to get to that next tier, so let's say you'd like to make a little bit more money every 6 months, then you could potentially use the Gateway Scholarship Program to take some more early childhood child development coursework and then utilize that to get that boost that you need on that Great Start scale and possibly be eligible for a higher level because now you've got more early childhood education credits. Again, official transcripts coming in have to be submitted for the Gateway Scholarship Program. The nice thing is let's say you've already applied for Great Start and you're using the scholarship program to increase your level. Whatever your baseline transcript is that you've started with, once you submit it for one program, we have it on file. So you don't need to keep sending it unless something has changed. So as you're completing new coursework, to be reviewed for the Great Start program, you would need to continue to submit updated official transcripts. But if you've submitted it for a credential 6 months ago, you haven't taken any new coursework, you're going to apply for Great Start, don't worry about sending that again. We should have that on file. If you're not sure what you have on file, you can always call the office and we'd be happy to check that information for you.
So I'd like to add just a couple of quick points about coursework as applicable for the Great Start program. In order for a course to count for a Great Start for one of those educational requirements, the course has to be at least 100 level or above. You must have earned a grade of C or better in that particular course. So if you took Child Development 101 at your local community college, but let's say you didn't do so well that semester and you got a D in that class would not count as part of the total hours for your Great Start application. So I just wanted to make that one point known.
One other program that we wanted to touch base about is the Professional Development Advisor Program, which Mark mentioned at the beginning. He and I are both professional development advisors. So the PDA program is a line of support for you as a registry member. It's a free service of the registry. And what PDAs do, we can help you explain your application status. We can help you review the hours you've completed. We can work through where you want to go to school. How do I go back to school? How do I apply? Where should I go? What financial aid can I use outside of the scholarship program? All of these various facets that go into working in the field, we can help provide some support with your questions, not just about Gateway's programs, but about the field in general. So we're certainly here to give you information about Gateway's programs, but the scope of the PDA program does go a little bit more broad. And we are able to offer some assistance in finding resources in how to be teacher qualified or, CDA questions that you might have. So we really do offer various kinds of support. So if you have any kinds of questions about going back to school, earning a credential, even if it's not a Gateway's credential. PDA services are free. There is a section of our website where you would go at the top. You'll just go under Professional Development and then go to Professional Development Advisor. And you can request a PDA. Again, it's free, and we'll give you a call and walk through whatever it is that you might need some assistance with. So we have a lot of good ways for you to access Great Start information, Great Start resources. There's a lot of other good resources for you. If you have any questions about those, you can visit our website, give us a call. We do have, I think this is our last poll. So let's put it up there.
Before you do the poll, Annie, I just want to add a couple of things. I want to give you a couple of examples of some of the things that professional development advisors can help with. I frequently get questions like, I've heard about early intervention programs and different positions in that particular system. I'm interested in that. How do I do that? Oftentimes we'll get questions about, well, I work in a child care center, but I'd really like to be a speech and language therapist at some point. What do I need to do? What are the educational requirements for that? How do I become a professional licensed teacher with the State Board of Education? So those are the types of things that professional development advisors can assist you with. So it is a wide open range of opportunity for you to get information about the field and careers in the field of early care and education. So why don't you go ahead and talk about that last couple of polls that we've got?
Sure. I think this is the final one. So let's see. How are you most likely to access Great Start resources and information? So you'll see a few options up there. You'll see visit ilgateways.com and read the Great Start FAQs, log into your registry account and apply online, talk with a Great Start counselor or professional development advisor. So there's no wrong answer. It's just how you're most likely to access that information. So we will give you a couple seconds to answer that.
So, and while you're answering that question, if you have questions about any of the topics that we discussed about the Great Start program, that we will take a few minutes to answer some of those questions. You'll be able to type those in the question box on your webinar web screen there. Again, please only ask generalized questions. We really don't have time, nor is it really appropriate for us to ask individual specific questions about an individual application. If it's a general question, we'll do our very best to try to answer that. Plus, again, we've given you lots of other additional resources that you can go to get answers to your questions. So continue on with the with your responses.
Okay, so it looks like a lot of you are going to visit the website. That is a great resource. You're going to log into your registry account, So the website is a really great resource for Great Start and other programs. So let's do a little recap over what we covered today. So explore the Gateway's website for more information. It looks like a lot of you said you intended to do that anyway, so that's great to hear. Read through the frequently asked questions, review the eligibility requirements, look through that scale. Mark showed you how to access that. There's a lot of good information on there. We were only able to cover a few of the frequently asked questions, so you'll actually find that the frequently asked questions on the website are more detailed and cover some items that we didn't have time to go over today. You can also go to the website, review the scale, get an idea of where you might be eligible. So maybe you want to go look at the wage supplement scale and, look at your position and then kind of take a look at your transcripts and feel out where you might be. You can always call if you have some questions. We won't be able to tell you definitively, yes, you would be at that level an option. That can only be done after you apply. But we can give you some basic information if you have some questions about kind of feeling out if you'd be eligible or not. Again, remembering that you have to be at your site for one continuous year also before you submit that application.
So I also wanted to add that if you don't happen to have a copy of your transcript, but you have submitted that, you can also access your professional development record, because that information will be included on your PDRs, we call it for short. So if you don't know where your transcript is, but I know I had it sent in for my credential application 2 months ago, you can pull that PDR up on your Gateway's Registry membership dashboard, and you can use that as a means of helping you kind of give you a ballpark idea of where you're at in reference to the Great Start Wage Supplement Program.
Yep. You can also call or email us for more information. So we're going to give you the phone number and some email addresses here shortly. If you have any questions, you can always call or email. Like Mark said, we don't have the time, and it's also kind of a breach of confidentiality to answer any specific questions you have about your own Great Start application here today. We'll try our best to get through some of the more general questions, but we'll give you some contact information. So go ahead and type those questions if you haven't yet. And while you're doing that, here is the website. So it's www.ilgateways.com. Our general phone number is 866-697-8278. And you would want to select the option for Great Start. There's other programs in there as well. So that is our main phone line if you have questions about credentials, about the scholarship program, about the iLearning, then you would call that and just select the option for whatever program you're looking for. And then Great Start does have a general email address, which is gstart@inccrra.org. They are pretty busy with applications right now, so we'll give you our direct email addresses as well. That way, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us directly. So Mark's email is listed there as well as mine. You might want to jot those down. We'll leave that up while we go and review some of these questions.
And while we're going to the questions, one thing to keep in mind, especially for those of you that are listening today in our webinar who do have applications already submitted for Great Start, because of the large volume of applications we have received, because of the change in eligibility requirements, that 15 to 18, 31,200 to 37,440, we have been receiving huge volumes of applications. So you may not necessarily be able to talk directly with the Great Start counselor that has been officially assigned to you. Keep in mind that there are other staff here at INCRA that are available to help you, including Annie and I ourselves. We are helping our Great Start counselors kind of answer some basic questions about that. So let's have a look at the questions, Annie, and see what we got.
How would someone like a float teacher be classified for position?
That's a real good question.
That might be one that we would want to touch base with our specialists. In scenarios like that, it's kind of one of those that there's not really a solid answer. Sometimes it just depends on what classroom they spend most of their time in.
Correct.
And things like that. So there's not necessarily a consistent answer for a floating teacher, just because every situation for a floating teacher is a little bit different. So I would use any of those email addresses that we showed you or that phone number and see if you can get a hold of someone. You can certainly email Mark or myself, and we can touch base with our Great Start team about that and get you an answer. They might need some more information.
I was just going to say that's probably a situation where additional information will be required, because we need to specify a little more exactly what your job title is. So okay, that second one, I have a bachelor's degree in education. I am certified K through 9 and currently have 15 hours of education. What would my supplement be every 6 months? That's one of those questions that we really can't answer for certain. A lot would have to do with what specific courses that you've taken. So again, that's one of those kind of individual questions that really what we would highly recommend is that you submit a full application for the Great Start program and just, you know, follow the instructions, make sure your application is complete, and see where it goes from there. You want to take the next one?
I have employees that have multiple jobs. Is the $37,440 the total income from multiple jobs or just from the job of the early learning center that the employee works at?
That's a great question.
Yep, so we are looking at the wages that you're making from your early care and education job. So that job that you've been at for a year, that is what we're looking at. So if they work at a department store, they work, you know, I don't know, on a farm, they do detasseling, whatever that the case may be, we're really just looking for the income they're making from their early childhood position at your site.
Just FYI, that also is applicable to the scholarship program as well. So only the money that you earn working at that particular child care center is included in that application for either Great Start or for the Great Start, the Gateway Scholarship program as well.
Right. Can we share these slides with our staff? We don't really have a good way to send this presentation where the slides are large enough for you to read them in a handout format. So in that case, if you wanted to email Mark or myself, we could give you some direct links to the website for some of the things, but the page that we typically use as a handout of this presentation makes all of the slides very, very small and hard to read. So
and the other part is that the webinar slides that we prepare are somewhat proprietary for INCRA, and that we don't really give that information out. I mean, the slides themselves, we're happy to provide any information that people have about the Great Start program or any other Gateway program. So and we're just not really allowed to share the slides themselves.
We typically do record the webinars that we do, and they are on the Gateway's YouTube page. So if you go to the Gateway's YouTube page, you can view some of our past, and there's not just Great Start. So there's information about the scholarship program. We were able to do a Spanish language version of the scholarship webinar. So if you have anybody who primarily speaks Spanish looking for scholarship information, that's on there as well. So the YouTube page is a great resource. We'll periodically post those links on our Facebook page as well, but the YouTube page is always available. You don't have to wait for them to post those links. So just make sure when you go to search, you search for Gateways to Opportunity. Yep, here we go.
So if you're a teacher, just a teacher assistant with no ECE credits, should you still apply? Well, you could have a CDA that you could have earned without taking any college coursework. So it is possible that you could be applicable, but if you don't have a CDA and you have no college coursework in early childhood education or child development, then I would say pretty much you can apply, but the likelihood of being eligible is probably fairly slim. Wouldn't you say, Annie?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we do have the Gateway Scholarship Program where you could utilize the Gateway Scholarship Program to potentially assist with the tuition to be able to take some of those ECE courses that you need to be eligible for Great Start. So a lot of our programs work together for that. If you have questions, reaching out to a PDA is always a great way to kind of figure out your map, so to speak, on where you're going to start, whether it's with that scholarship program to get to Great Start. So all of our programs really do build bridges to one another. So we try to give you as many resources as we can to help make you successful with all of our programs. So can we scan and email the required documents, or do you need a paper copy? So the application can be scanned and emailed. It would go, for Great Start, it would go to the transcripts incra.org email address that I shared earlier. If you ever need that email address, you can always email Mark or myself or give us a call and we can give you that.
Or if you already have a Great Start counselor and that counselor has requested via email specific documents, you can email those documents directly to your scholarship counselor. You can also mail them, or you can fax those specific documents as well. So, would special education courses count? That depends. That's another gray area that you just, you know, if what you have are all special education courses, you know, if they're general special education courses and they're not applicable to children from birth to about age 8, it's going to be iffy. So we would encourage you to apply and see what happens. Once again, you could always use the Gateway Scholarship Program if you do need to go back to school. Virtually all the courses that one would need to take to apply for the Great Start program, at least at the associate level, can all pretty much be taken at your local community college. Once you get to bachelor's and master's degrees, obviously those require different type of college coursework.
How soon will I receive my payment once approved? So once you're eligible, your check, depending on funds, the availability of funds would typically come the month after eligibility. At this time, we do not offer direct deposit, so those are always going to be checks that are mailed. If my licensed daycare home opens a licensed daycare center after I'm approved, will I have to work at the new daycare center for a year to be eligible? That's another one of those. It depends on the children that are attending, if they're the same children. So that would be a scenario where you'd want to reach out probably to one of the Great Start specialists. If you reach out to Mark or myself, we can give them that information, ask that on your behalf. But that's another one of those it depends scenarios where there's not really a blanket answer that would answer that question. We went over the income requirements. It is the income that you make in your early childhood job.
That's correct. So you said that license exempt programs are not eligible. That is correct. And that you must be fully DCFS licensed facility. Your question, what if a center is both licensed and license exempt in the same building? Only the employees who work in the licensed, fully DCFS licensed program would be eligible to apply for Great Start.
I thought I read something about Accelerate Center staff members only having to wait 90 days for eligibility. That is for our Gateway Scholarship Program. So the scholarship program, if you are working at a DCFS licensed site that has Accelerate Illinois, there are some additional boundaries around the 90 days with the type of program that you're working in, but that is for the scholarship program. Great Start, it's going to be 1 full year at that site before you're eligible to apply.
Okay, you mentioned that someone could qualify for Great Start if they work in an Illinois center but live out of state. Is that accurate? The answer to that question is yes. Once again, that may be a circumstance where some additional information may be required just to make sure that we document all the information correctly to make sure that all the requirements for Great Start are met.
License and license exempt, I think we answered that. If you guys have specific questions about your programs that are partially licensed and license exempt, I would encourage you to email because again, those are going to be a case-by-case basis. It just kind of depends on the program. Do we have to have state aid in our care to qualify for this program?
I think they might be referring to CCAP.
CCAP, yep.
Yeah, if you have CCAP kids and you're DCFS licensed and you meet the eligibility requirements, that's fine. But you do not have to be participating in the CCAP program to have your program be potentially eligible for Great Start as far as the staff is concerned.
Who evaluates transcripts and is there? So it depends on the program. There's not a rubric. Some of that is some internal information. So if you have questions about processes or things like that, I would encourage you to email just because, again, we don't really have the time to be able to go over all those various programs. So, and every program is kind of looking for something else. So it just kind of depends. Credential reviews are different than basic transcript reviews. So it really does depend. So some of these questions you might want to shoot us an email, and we'll try our best to help you. Let's answer one more, and then we're going to hop off here. Is there a certain number of hours worked per week needed? So you went over that, Mark, if you want
to. You need to work a minimum of 15 hours a week to be eligible for Great Start. So now, if you do work in various different programs, or I'm sorry, if you work varying hours, again, additional information may be required to verify that your average number of hours is at least 15 hours a week or more. But if you work less than 15 hours, or your average amount of time worked per week is less than 15 hours a week, then you would likely not be eligible for Great Start.
Right. Okay, so if you have questions that we weren't able to get to, or that we weren't able to specifically answer, again, there are the emails for Mark and for me. So go ahead and jot those down, shoot us those questions, and we'll try our best to get them answered or find someone who can. Just wanted to thank you guys for joining us today.
And I just wanted to add one other quick thing. If you do email us with a relatively involved question that may take us 20, 30 minutes to answer via email, we're probably going to send you, at least this is what I'll do, I will send you an email back saying, please call me, and I will give you my direct phone number. You can call me at that number. And to be honest, I just don't have time to type a 20, 30-minute email. So I can provide that same information to you verbally over the phone in probably 5 to 10 minutes. So the answer, Annie's pretty much the same way as well. Once again, I'd like to all thank you for attending today's webinar. We hope you have a little more understanding of the Great Start Wage Supplement Program. Those of you who have not applied, we do encourage you to apply. Those of you that have additional questions, we've given you resources. Please give us a call, send us an email, go to the website, and we thank you and have a great afternoon.